pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, we're back on a Monday night. So Leslie, do the roll call, please.
Mayor Laughlin.
Here.
Councilperson Sexton.
Here.
Miller.
Here.
Dean.
Here.
Goodweiler.
Here.
Stolman.
Here.
All right, Pete Swisher is gonna give us a little update on Mr. Swisher, National Park Service.
Celebrity.
You want that on?
If you want pictures, otherwise I'll just talk to you.
I'm too short, I can't.
I'm too.
It's remote control.
Look at him. All right. This is for Becky.
She's like, shut up.
Peter's revving real bad, or that's turning.
I think he's good to go, Reverend.
Yeah,
Oh,
I'm not seeing anything.
oh, you're right.
Usually, I think you take that little handset and.
Yeah, this is what I'm used to.
Oh,
no,
there it
is. All right.
Had to warm up.
Turn off that backlight.
Okay.
Switch to the north.
I mean, they're really pretty pictures. So, all right. So, I wanted to give an update for our stormwater project, which you guys have known for years is coming along and been looming as we prepared our environmental assessment. And you thank the mayor and other folks who've been involved when we did our value analysis. And you guys have been along with me on this ride for years. So this is really where the rubber hits the road here, and or the boat gets in the water or something. I don't know what to call it here. Little bit of background on how we did this. We had several contractor submittals to review, and so our first process was to do a qualitative analysis first. So in other words, get to see what they're going to make sure that the contractors understood the project, that their submittals was detailed enough to give us satisfaction that they could complete the job and do it well. So I didn't see the price first, in other words. I saw only what their write-up was, their narrative for how they were going to get the job done. Myself and a couple of folks in Denver did that first qualitative analysis. Once we had reviewed the contractor submittals, we kind of had to put them in priority order at that point. And then we got to the step 2, which was the quantitative analysis. That's the bid. That's your best, your low bid. Okay, that's where you start looking at your best value for the taxpayer. So, and that's where we came to the selection of Miller Trucking and Excavating out of Silvis, Illinois. They're near Moline. So, they made the cut on both of those analysis. Our schedule right now. Well, we awarded the contract in February. This week, tomorrow, and the next day we'll begin marking trees for tree removal, which I'll talk about in a minute. And then in April, they'll spend the next month providing us with all the required documents, their safety plans, things like that we require before they're allowed to really do a lot of work. And then in September so it's going to kind of appear like we're not doing a whole lot once the trees are removed to September, but I'll explain what's going to happen in just a minute. September marks the date for major construction. So we get past hometown days. Major construction for this project includes replacing Downey Street Bridge, constructing the detention basin, working the stream channel. They'll have to construct haul roads that'll be used for disposal of the dirt, and building the sound mitigating berms. The berms out in the prairie. So it's federal. We have to give things big names. So that project will continue through June of 2021. July will be our punch list month. And then after that, we have a 2-year warranty period for both turf and non-turf areas. So the non-lawn is, the native grasses, what they will revegetate the basin. The berms that they construct out in the prairie have to be revegetated as prairie, and any damage they do out at the Thompson farm. So tree removal first. That's what starts here in the next week. what I've shown you is, I believe I've got it in order from 2nd Street to where the detention basin will be constructed. There's about 75 trees between 2nd Street by our maintenance shop that are up to where the picnic shelters are in the park that have to be removed in order for us to be able to work in the creek. The remaining 25 trees are where the detention basin will be constructed. If you paid attention last year, you would have noticed where we mowed kind of this kidney-shaped bean area. That is where the detention basin is going to be constructed. And going back just for a second, that tree removal has to happen before the end of March. So it has to be completed because of nesting season. So the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service requires all major trees be removed, or at least downed by that point, so that if we have an endangered species like Indiana bat or something that would come in, then we can't give it a place to nest and then cut it out from underneath it. So we have to meet that standard. After the trees are removed, we go into this semi-quiet period because we've got about 6 more weeks of archaeology to complete before we can really move forward. We've done pretty substantial archaeology at this point. If I can stand in front of the screen for a minute, this is where the detention basin is going to be, and each one of those dots represents a test hole we did already. There's also some test holes that occurred out here, and some along the Hall Road. And then actually Iowa Department of Transportation helped us with those because of the potential interstate work. So we were able to clear all of those sites, as well as all of the sites that you see in the creek. So there's still a couple of sites where we know there's some midden areas, some potential things that have either drifted into the creek during high flow or were present there. So those have to either be removed or at least cataloged somehow. So that work will happen. Our Midwest Archaeological Center out of Lincoln, Nebraska will be back here for that approximate 6-week work to happen. So that'll be in the spring, April, May, June probably. So the utilities, we still have some utilities that are in the way. The major one is Alliant Gas. This, I apologize, I don't have a better drawing, but for some reason or another, I can't speak to why, this is the gas line, runs across here. For some reason, it takes a dive and goes towards the creek, comes back up to Penn Street. I have no idea why. So there's this U shape of a gas line that has to be deactivated. And so Alliant Energy is going to come back roughly June, and they're just going to come straight across. So seems like it makes sense. So maybe Dave can tell us why did they do that. So that has to happen. The line is exposed in some of the creek. It needs to be removed before the excavators get in the creek. So that'll happen. This other area is a drawing you've seen before because it's part of a right-of-way agreement that we have passed here in the council, where we will be reconstructing the sewer and reconnecting a new water line that serves the Presidential Library Museum. That sewer line is exposed under the Downey Street Bridge today. So that exposed line will be deactivated and removed. The new one will be trenched and dug from, or installed from the Presidential Library, across the park, across near our maintenance shop to 2nd Street where that new connection will be made. And so that right-of-way has already been put in place. Thank you for helping us with that. So, just to give you a general overview of the area of the park that this is going to take place in, again, that kind of kidney-shaped bean in the circle, that's the detention basin that's going to be constructed roughly behind the Ford dealership. So. The Downey Street Bridge. So after September, I think it's 14th. I think it's my birthday. September 14th is the day that major construction can begin. So we will be begin dismantling and removing the Downey Street Bridge that exists today. and installing a new bridge that looks similar to the one pictured here from 1917. It's very similar in design to the Parkside Drive bridge as well. So along with that, the wall, the brick wall that's on the right side of the screen there is a major feature of a historical feature of the park that we want to maintain. So the contractor's going to, however, some of that wall has collapsed into the creek. So the contractor is going to be repairing that wall. It's got a pretty significant lean to it. They're going to right that wall and build a sort of foundation in front of it to keep it right. And then they're going to dismantle part of it, remove mortar, and reconstruct it using original stone. So using as much original stone as possible anyway. So the wall will still remain there near the statue of Isis. The basin location, again, here, there on the left, just shows 10.1 acres is our size, 19.5 acre feet capacity, and an overview. And then on the right side is sort of our post-construction hope that we can get it to look like. We'll have to use a slightly different seed mixture because it'll be more wet than dry probably, so we're relying on, we have natural resource arm up at Effigy Mounds that helps us come up with those seed mixtures. So. And then the channel will also be simultaneously worked on, so that's just you're all very familiar with the current condition of the stream, the creek that runs through here, how it's very difficult to maintain it or impossible to mow it at this point. So we're hoping to bring it to approximately a 4-to-1 slope so folks can see the creek again. It will take a number of years to get it vegetated again, but there will be in places throughout, it'll have a reinforcement mat placed under it, the interlocking concrete block to keep it from eroding again. That'll be then embedded with dirt and planted with grass again. So keep it from hopefully eroding, and because this money won't come back again for us to do this project a second time. So we want to get it right the first time. So if you recall, the original project from 2006 actually would have had us building an inline dam in Hoover Creek, which would have then regulated water flow going through it. However, in our EA process, we learned that the National Park Service, Department of Interior, no longer builds dams. So we're not going to build a dam. So instead, this is an off-channel detention basin using a weir dam. And so water that comes into the park from Main Street will, the bad behaving water will splash over the weir dam into the detention basin, and then the traditional culvert system to allow it to drain back into the creek over a period of time after the storm event has passed. This map shows you the anticipated haul roads. I actually believe we have to move this road over a little bit, because I think right here is where you have a right-of-way for a water line that serves the water tower. So we want to limit the amount of truck traffic that is driving on top of that. So just so you know, we're aware of that. The trucks will drive from the detention basin through into the Thompson Farm property into what these sound mitigating berms right here. Iowa Department of Transportation helped us design these. The trucks will remain within the footprint of these berms. They're not allowed to go north or south, and drop their load, turn around, and come back. So the contractor will have to provide traffic control here so that they don't have trucks backing up in this way. Similarly, get my bearings about me here, running through the creek, as they work in the creek, they'll come down Downey Trace, the Hoover Foundation's yellow houses here. Have to come around, we want to avoid their property line, come in where a second berm is being constructed over here. So between the Miles Farm and the Hoover Foundation's yellow house, A second berm will be constructed here until it has reached capacity, and then they'll continue on and dump the rest of the load here. Excuse me. Anything that happens along here will cut through behind our maintenance shop. We may have a temporary flagger placed here. It won't be a light, it'll be a human flagger throughout. If they need to cross the road, because these are the trucks that are unable to drive on the street legally. So. Then we get into the warranty period for the turf and non-turf areas. So we feel that's pretty significant because it took years to get the park looking the way it did today, and it's going to take years. 2 years is probably too little, but it's the most we could squeak out of a contract like this. We felt pretty fortunate to get that. So with that, just thank USGS and thank you, the city. I tried to go back and think of all of the things that we've completed just since I've arrived here in 2010. And the mayor and prior mayors worked hard on all this. The Stream Team, reviving it into Stream Team 2. You were integral in creating Hoover Dam in 2013. Your water utility fund of 14. The modeling that you partnered with us on in 15, creating the Lower Cedar Watershed Authority in 17, and your continued efforts working in the downstream areas, very much appreciated. It does show in the modeling that all of that work will eventually pay off for us once we have it all completed together. So we're pretty excited to see that. Throughout this, you'll see that we'll have it on our website. We've added a new web page that will keep you updated on the project. So we've already got an alert up on our website for traffic, for visitors that might be popping off at Interstate 80 to know what disruptions they might experience. I don't anticipate any shutdown of the park throughout this process. I would expect the entire park stays open. There may be a period when Downey Street Bridge is removed that it's going to be very difficult for visitors to get to the meeting house. You'll see it, but you can't get there. So we may have to evaluate whether or not the meeting house remains open through some of this process. But we'll make it through Hometown Days into some of our fall school tour season, but frankly, our October school season probably will be focused mostly over at the Library Museum as opposed to into the park. So visitors can still use the walkway, of course, to cross over by the picnic shelters, or they can choose to drive if they want to go to each facility that way. So, but otherwise, this is where we're at. It's going to start this next week. I remind people that we're the National Park Service. We too like trees, not typically associated with removing them. So it was a difficult decision to have to take trees down, but it's a necessary step in order to make the creek a healthy creek and get that slope reestablished to something not only that Hoover would have associated with when he was a child, but also one that we'll be able to maintain in the future and keep it looking nice. So that's my update, so thank you.
Okay, I don't have any questions. Nice pictures.
Yeah, aren't they pretty?
So is the park going to replace some of the trees? I mean,
That's a good, thank you. Yeah, I paid him to ask that. No, in the contract there is, they have to replace at least 60. So 60 of the 100 trees will be replaced. And frankly, we'll get a greater variety of trees because the trees that have grown in the creek are kind of monoculture right now. Our gardener, Ryan, is already working on a recipe, if you will, of trees that'll give us a greater variety, not only in trees of different varying heights, but different types too. So we're kind of looking back to the original intent of tree planting in the park and trying to bring some of that back, obviously considering disease tolerance and stuff. So it should be a prettier park once we get it all reestablished. I'm fairly confident we'll get more than 60, but you have to wait and see how the budget runs. So.
I'm gonna look.
Yeah.
The wetland grass is gonna be interesting to me, because we may want some of that seed.
Sure. Yeah,
See
it's
where you get it from.
the grasses will be interesting, and how they mesh with the rest of the prairie will be really interesting.
Okay.
A lot of help. So. All right.
Thank you, Pete.
Thank you.
Melissa Russell, Park and Rec Director, is gonna give us a little report on the grand opening plans of Cubby Park.
Okay. I passed out some information for you, more information than probably you needed, but sometimes that's the way I do it. The first thing I gave you was kind of a calendar, that way we can talk about some things that are coming up in the park. The Easter egg hunt is scheduled for the 11th. That's what the date the commission chose. We always choose the Saturday right before Easter. In the previous years, we've used the school. At this point, we're going to hopefully use Cubby Park. We talked about that being a grand opening day. I don't feel that's a good idea, and only because there's so many kids that are playing soccer that morning that I don't think we'll get we always get the participation for the Easter egg hunt, but that's kind of a short 10-minute activity. I don't think that would be the opportune time, but that's your decision. That's fine. The other event that I have scheduled, which I thought would be a great opening celebration, I have on the 19th the Major League Baseball pitch hit run and the home run derby contest set up. I put the flyer in there for you. I haven't distributed that, but I thought that would be a fun activity. The commission's on board with that. It's a free thing. The kids just need to register. It's for 14 and under, so it hits a variety of things. I'd love council to come, and if there's any other ideas that you guys can think of that you'd like to do for a celebration, or if you'd like it at another time, I would love your feedback on that. Yeah. What you got?
Copy of this you can
Yeah.
send me?
Yep.
I can give it to Rich.
Absolutely.
And
Yep.
we can circulate it to
Yep, perfect. And I'm also going to try and grab some of the high schoolers to see if they would like to come down and help with that day and make it a fun. I don't know, we pass out free popcorn for everybody or something from the concession stand, something good. And then, so more information will be coming. I just thought it'd be a really good idea, kind of tie everything together. I didn't want to do that either earlier in April because sometimes it's a little chilly still. Like if we did April 5th or something like that on a Sunday afternoon. And bats sometimes hurt the little ones when they're swinging and it's cold. So I kind of wanted to avoid that if possible.
So they would be pitched with a machine for
Yep.
the home run thing?
Yep. It's still to be determined, but yes, that's the plan. And then you can kind of see the rest of the schedule. May is, we start to get some games in May. This is just based off of what we've done in previous years for our schedule. I haven't put any practices on there. And then June is when we have games most nights. Friday night, nobody wants to do anything. We're putting that as a makeup game. That's always, nobody wants to schedule a practice for Friday night or anything like that, but I think that's pretty typical. Okay.
Got some bookings for,
I have some tournament bookings in there. I have one for a local team. I put it out to all the local teams first, and they're usually slow to register. But then I have a couple other I highlighted in red, and then I just went ahead and put kind of the fees that they'll be paying for those tournaments. And then I'll try and host the 3rd and 4th grade or the 5th and 6th grade rec tournaments those 2 weekends, just to really showcase our fields. If that makes sense. The next thing I kind of put in there, I also put in the fee schedule. This was approved for the ball field rentals last March. So that I figured it was probably a good refresher as to what our rental fees for our ball fields are. And then I wanted to get some, while I have your attention, some feedback on signs. So, we've been very generous, Eagle Scouts have been very generous with projects over the years in our signage. We have the one at Lions Field, and I think Roger has something from that. And then I have the other two from the dog park, and both the commission and council had kind of said that they would like to keep our signage in town consistent. So that's why I pulled these. The West Branch Dog Park and the Wapsie one, they're 48 by 36, and I put an estimate too from Kirby what that would be if the commission wanted to go that route. I love the rock that we have at Lions Field also, and I wanted to put that in there since it would be a nice tribute to Mark, who the park is named after.
Show them this.
Yep, go ahead.
I just got this today. I asked, it's a boulder, just a boulder, $1,500. That's an option also.
And then we can go a different signage for the outside. I would like some feedback if I'm on the right track. Any thoughts?
Say that again.
I like keeping it consistent.
Yeah, I do too.
So do you want to keep it consistent with the original rock, or do you, with the brown signage that we have?
Are we getting a flagpole too?
We already have flagpoles out
Okay.
there.
Well, the stake and, we got two wooden signs and the Lions Field is the rock.
Lions Field's right there.
Same street? No, different street.
Well, close.
It's something we can think on too, and we could maybe try and do one at the entrance and one closer up, a different spot in the field or something.
$1,500 for the boulder.
It'll be
But
about,
that could go somewhere else too.
right.
It's like, I think the brown sign would be good at the entrance, or they both would be. Is that too much signage?
No, there's never too much signage.
I just wanted to, I don't know, honor Mark World some way, I guess, with a boulder would be a perfect, the earth mover.
Kind of why we brought both options, so that
Yeah.
you could think about it. And the sign from Kirby would be, I put a estimate on there, would be about $1,300 for double-sided. One side, welcome to Cubby Park, and the other side, thanks for visiting, or please return, or whatever you wanted on there.
Do you know what material that sign would
That
be
must be
made out of?
aluminum.
No, it's not aluminum.
It's a
It's
polymer of some sort, isn't it?
Oh,
4x4 is
okay.
yeah,
most of plastic.
yeah.
Plastic.
It's a recycled plastic sign. They've held up really well. And on that, I went ahead and I included some of the options for designs. If we wanted to put a symbol, like the dog park has the paw prints. Wapsie doesn't have anything, but something.
Palm tree.
Thinking warm thoughts. I mean, there is a ball player, but
You looking for something now?
no, I just want some feedback. I mean, it's different if we're gonna go boulder route or the other route.
Anybody feel strong one way or another?
Well, if we
I like the
went,
boulder myself.
if we went the sign route, could it say what that boulder says?
Well, yeah.
Memory mark for
Sure
it?
it could.
Yeah.
Have a sign below it or something. Have a separate sign.
Yeah, a little banner below, if we did the wooden sign for a little memory of, or in honor of. Mark
There's a
World.
plaque
Or we
on the
could do the
one.
combination, we could do the sign, and
Boulder.
then on the rock, say, in memory of Mark
Perfect.
World,
Yeah.
then everybody's happy.
Yeah.
You wouldn't have that large of a rock.
I'm hearing we're leading towards a boulder rock. Not sure.
I've always thought of a boulder.
I can
That's
bring it
my
back
leaning.
next time. It's not a,
I think that,
it's a mock.
so we're looking at, the sign would be the same size, it'd be that 4 by,
Yeah, 4 by 36 is the biggest that, unless we want to go with a different company. But I was trying to maintain the consistency all the way through, but I can definitely go with a different company.
I'm just thinking the sign gives you, when you first come in there, you see something that's 4 feet off the ground or 5 feet off the ground, you're gonna see it before you see that, the stone, but, yeah.
That's right, yeah.
So, yeah, maybe it's a combination of both.
Okay, I'll have some mock-ups for the next meeting and some designs maybe with a combination of both.
I do personally believe if we go with the sign though, I mean, this is our Coupe de Gras Park. It needs to be bigger than the one we advertise for the dogs.
Okay,
I mean,
okay,
so maybe we should try to get a bigger sign.
okay. I can,
The drawback to that might be is the reason they're only making that size is because they are made out of polymer and they're recycled plastic and they'll expand and contract and warp and twist and
Blow over.
so might be a deal where they don't make up unless it's out of some kind of a plywood product. But
yeah, it would have to be a different company,
yeah.
which is absolutely fine, I just, okay.
Okay.
So that's where I'll bring some other things back, but, and then the other thing I just tossed in there was, just so that you had the information, the stuff that's happening now and the registrations we're taking for programs. That's all. Went home in the schools. Yeah, what you got?
Quick
Sure.
question, only just from traveling around
Sure.
playing a bunch of softball, is I know some places I've been have, I mean, it's not a large amount, but they've had local businesses either sponsor a field, so then like somebody did it like P&G, so like if I go play a slow pitch tournament somewhere, like my first game might be on P&G field or whoever wants to sponsor it.
We've
Main Street
chatted
Suites
about it
field
briefly,
or-
but
It don't have to be, wouldn't have to be a large sum the first year. I mean, you could be $100, could be a couple $100. You could have, you know what I mean? Just if anybody's interested, like
Yeah, I'd look
Liberty
for-
Field, P&G Field.
more than that.
Well, no,
10,000
that's
bucks,
fine,
I
but
don't
it's
know.
just
So,
might be
Trying
a
to pay
bit
for the
steep.
field or what?
But I didn't know if we had thought about it at all.
we've kind of talked about and we're researching and hoping to come up with I don't want to say a sponsorship policy or a donor policy, like with banners. You know, if you want, a lot of times you go to ball fields and the banners are on the fields, the high school or wherever, kind of a policy in regards to that of how much money you need to give for that and what type of companies will accept for that also.
Banner at the baseball field, I think, was $500. One
Well,
item.
I've seen it to where you can have a banner for a smaller amount and the field can be
I think so.
all
Right.
yours for a larger amount.
So that's one thing we're kind of researching too. As a city, we don't have a good policy in regards to that, and I'd like to. Okay,
So I have
yeah.
have we figured out the base pass yet?
So, if we do anything, it'll be in July, and I'll come back with estimates for that after the season. I've talked with anybody that early on that would need those bigger base paths, and they know that they're not available right now. If they want to use them for practice or something like that, then that's great. But so we'll have estimates and a plan coming back with that. I would hate to rip up the fields right now, right before a season starts. We've all been waiting a while. I think we need to get these people using the fields in the park. The other potential problem I see at the park is the pickleball court is very, very popular.
Should have lighted it.
I've heard that
Should
too.
have built two.
And I've heard that too. Well,
Good lights.
so I'm kind of working and trying to toy with some different solutions. You can always do the old-fashioned sign up on the court. That's not necessarily the best. I've thought about having a couple nights that are league nights, you could call them, and for a small fee that you'll be able to play that night, and the rest can be a sign up. Talk about online sign up because that's how we reserve the fields and our shelters and things like that. Problem is people can look at them and that's great, but it's a good problem to have, but it's probably going to be the one thing we're going to get the most complaints about. Because I was getting the complaints even before the park opened about that.
Sorry about that.
No, that's okay.
I didn't even know what pickleball was 3 years ago.
And I had to fight it, that's what I heard, yeah. You all thought I was crazy. Okay, anything else?
Cool.
Okay. So yeah, as always, just contact me anytime with feedback and what you'd like. And
Okay. Thanks, Melissa.
Yep.
Public comments. Is anyone here to speak to the council? Yeah. Hi. I didn't recognize you.
Sorry, Roger. Sorry, Mayor. I am Ben Litcher. I am a Public Works employee for City of West Branch, part-time. I have been so for the last 6 years. I'm actually coming up on my anniversary here. Doesn't seem like that long ago. I was up here introducing myself. I believe Colton Miller was the only one that's here, so there are a lot of fresh faces. But I unfortunately don't live here. That's one of the bad things about this, that I reside up by Mechanicsville rurally. The reason I am here tonight, though, to address you folks is kind of a twofold thing. I've addressed Administrator Jones and my boss, Public Works Director Goodale, on the issue of the coming budget year, 2021. Not only the raises, the 1.6% raises, but also my pay in general, part-time pay. I guess in my mind, I don't feel it reflects me as a worker here. As I said, it's been 6 years. I enjoy working here. I enjoy the town. I enjoy the people. Like I said, I look forward to working here. And I feel, in my mind, you get out of what you put into something, and that's twofold. That's not only on my part as an employee, but that's also on your part as not only as taxpayers paying my paycheck, but you get work ethic out of me that I put into. And Matt, I've stressed this to Matt the same way, and I know that verbal appreciation is one thing, and I know Matt appreciates me as a worker, and if I had a nickel for every time somebody in this town has thanked me for something I did, I wouldn't even be here. But anyway, I just feel that, to me, it's not necessarily a black and white issue as far as departments go. I feel that part-timers right now start out at $12, and you can literally go up the hill and get started at Casey's or McDonald's for that amount. And I'm not trying to demean that job by any means. It's a job, and the people that work there, I'm not putting it against that. I think there's just a difference in labor, maybe intensity, I guess, as far as, like I said, your job specifications that maybe should be reflected into I guess, and long story short, my paycheck. And I like I said, I'm one of those people that, like I said, I enjoy my job. I'm not looking to go anywhere else. That's the problem here, is as you folks go, I realize this is not a business where you're making money, and if you have a good year, you reflect that onto your employees. I realize that. You're on a fixed income. There's only one pie we're all trying to get a piece of. But I just, as far as spending goes, sometimes I think that not just Public Works in general, police department, library, doesn't matter. I think it needs to be a case-by-case situation addressed. I apologize. I don't want to sugarcoat this, but what I make now and these last couple years, I've addressed this to Matt and Administrator Jones, but the percentage of the raise, I'm not gonna lie to you, I feel like it's a slap in the face. I'm sorry. I apologize for that, but I just feel like, I'm one of those people that I don't have a lot. The money has never been an issue for me, but right now, this year now coming on, when I started out, I felt like I was on the right track. The first few years, I got decent raises. And like I said, the money was never an issue, but now these last couple years, and now finding out what it's this year, I just feel like it's not conducive to me as a worker for this town. And as I said, I put a lot into this, and I enjoy my job. I enjoy the people. I wish I lived here, and I didn't have obligations where I do live, and I do. I'm like I said, if I didn't have any of that, it would be a cut and dry issue. Matt has tried twice to get me full time, and I can't. I just can't put in that time. I like part time. My schedule is conducive to that, and Matt has been flexible with me as far as allowing me to work in that schedule. And I just feel just because I'm part time, or some people may think all I do is spend time on a lawnmower all day. That's not always the case. There's a lot of other things that we do together in the Public Works Department, and I take a lot of pride in my work. And Memorial Day weekend is the example I always go back to. I take a lot of pride in what that cemetery looks like for Memorial Day weekend. The veterans have, like I said, if I could get paid on verbal appreciation, I wouldn't even be here, because I help the vets with the flags. I'm there extra hours. I've left a lot of hours on the table for that, for Hoover Days. I take a lot of pride in, the parade route being ready to go for Hoover Days. I help Matt when he needs help. I've always tried to help him, to make his job easier. And I guess I felt it was time that, like I said, I've addressed City Administrator Jones and my boss, Public Works Director Goodale, that I'm not trying to make waves for this year, as far as I'm not looking to, start a stampede or set a precedent, but maybe my opinion will maybe stick with some people as far as next year when it comes time to, changing things, or like I said, I realize you're on a fixed income and there's only so much coming in. You can't, I get it. You can't spend what you don't have. And I just, like I said, I'm to that point that, I've gotten a lot out of this. I'm coming on 2 years now, not quite 2 years ago. Then First Assistant Josh Worrell and Fire Chief Kevin Stuhlman asked me to join the fire department. They asked me. I didn't go to them. They asked me. They knew I was a firefighter. I'm a firefighter in Mechanicsville. They'd seen me. They approached me at a county fire meeting. They said, "We need help during the day. Would you consider it?" I was more than happy. I asked him what I needed to do. Away we went. Less than a year later, I become an officer, and I'm still an officer there. And I've gotten a lot out of that. And like I said, I get a lot out of coming here. Like I said, this has been one of the few jobs. I haven't had a lot of jobs in my life. I'm a career farmer up there, and this is just one of those jobs that fits my schedule for, like I said, with Matt being flexible with me and allowing me to, I just need something to make up some time. And like I said, I'm trying to keep this as short and concise as possible. And if after this, like I said, it's, you don't agree with me, I totally respect that. I like I said, you guys have a tough enough job as it is. Matt has a tough enough job as it is. But I just felt that.
Well, Ben, I just want to. What you're going through is a symptom of a bigger problem. I was just baffled when I got on the council and there's no salary schedule for the employees. And we sat here at the budget meeting and said, we're going to work on it this year. And I don't know how we're going to do that, but I've got some ideas. And, just because you're a worker, you get a 1.6% raise. Well, that's a cost of living raise. Everyone gets that. There's nothing in there for time and effort and competency. And like I said, what you're expressing is a symptom of a bigger problem that we're going to work on.
And I totally get that. And like I said, they've expressed that to me. Like I said, I guess what I'm basing this on is, like I said, the first few years I was here, it felt, I'm like I said, I was kind of on the right track. And now these last couple of years, I feel like I'm backpedaling. I'm kind of stale. And from what I started at, I just feel like, and like I said, this is something that Matt and I may not agree on. You folks may not agree with me on it either, but I just feel like, there's a pretty big gap just within, Public Works. And like I said, this is just my opinion. This is just me stating.
No, there's not, there's a gap in public works, there's a gap throughout
Yes.
the
Yes.
city employees,
Yes.
and we need to get a handle on it.
That's what I'm saying. I'm not saying that I'm do more work
I-
than the police
I
department
understand
or
that
library
there are
or.
employees here that we're getting a bargain for.
So like I said, it was just one of those things that whether it was on your minds or it wasn't, I felt that it was one of those things that I thought, well, I had to voice my opinion, my
Well, I'm
concern
glad you
about
did.
it.
I mean, I didn't know you felt this way.
And I like I said, I'm not.
Just keep
I'm not-
energetic, your energy just keeps going out.
This isn't like a negotiation that I'm saying I'm going to walk out because I'm going to show up to work the same as I always have. Like I said, it's just one of those things. Like I said, if you could put a dollar amount on verbal appreciation, that'd be one thing. Sometimes it helps, when I've worked at a couple other places, when you got that big raise or you got that bonus check or whatever, whether it be at the end of the year, holidays, whatever. Here at the fire department, you get it right there at the end of the year before the holidays, and it's kind of nice to get that. And that's, like I said, the fire department, it's a volunteer thing, and it's the same way in mechanical. They have the same issue there, but it's on a different scale, obviously. But like I said, it's just one of those that I didn't. And Matt didn't actually, until I voiced it, he wasn't even aware of it either, and I apologize for that. I don't know what like I said, I don't want to create make any waves or anything and let you folks know that I'm unhappy, but I wanted to voice, like I said, my concerns and let you know that's like I said,
We do have, I think, one more chance before we adopt the salaries in the next fiscal year, I believe. We have another chance to approve salaries, don't we?
I
For
think
next
you can
fiscal
approve
year.
salaries anytime you want. It's not necessarily in the budget, but that doesn't mean you
Right.
can't approve
So,
salaries.
don't give up on it.
I'm not like I said, I'm not exactly giving you any leverage for myself because, like I said, I'm not going to say I'm going to walk out the door and not come back because I appreciate everything that Matt has done, and like I said, I got into the fire department. That's a twofold thing, and I get a lot out of this. Like I said, I wish I did live here and could commit more, but it's just like I said, what I'm getting out of it now is so like I thank you for that, and like I said, if nothing comes out of it, so be it. If something does, I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you, Ben.
Thanks, Ben. Stay off 6th Street.
No promises.
Anyone else? Public comment period. Okay, we're going to move on to item F. The consent agenda will be the motion to approve the minutes of the last meeting of February 18th. A Class E liquor license with a Class B wine and a Class C beer carryout Sunday sales for Casey's General Store up on the interstate. And the claims. Give me a motion, someone will talk about that. Well, Colton and Nick. Any discussion? Let's vote then, Leslie.
Councilperson Miller,
Yes.
Goodweiler?
Yes.
Dean?
Yes.
Stulman?
Yes.
Sexton?
Yes.
Okay, item G1, we have the third and final reading of ordinance 772, approving the rezoning of a parcel of property located north of Interstate 80, east of Parkside Drive, commonly from a B2 district to a PUD district, a Planned Unit Development District. This is currently the Parkside BP property. Give me a motion, someone.
A motion.
Tom, and Nick will second. And what is our third reading? So any discussion? Okay, let's vote.
Councilperson Dean?
Yes.
Goodweiler?
Yes.
Stulman?
Yes.
Sexton?
Yes.
Miller?
Yes.
Okay, that's our final reading, and that is rezoned. I think we have to record that with the county.
Yep.
Then it's official.
And it's,
Yeah. Item 2, resolution 1878, approving a site plan for Parkside BP, currently known as 401 Parkside Drive. Give me a motion first. Somebody, Jerry,
Second.
Colton. I don't know, we've seen this, maybe we haven't, but P and Z has. A couple times.
You've seen it.
Yeah, we have. Looks like get away without a retaining wall for now. That'd be nice, I suppose, for you. I don't, do you want to explain? I don't, there's, if you want. You're gonna, the gas station stays as is, you're gonna add on to it to the south.
Ron Amlon with MMS Consultants represent the developer, and just a quick explanation of the site plan. The intention would be to remodel the gas station and also extend the building to the south to have some additional commercial space associated with it. And you mentioned something about the retaining wall. We had a Skype meeting with the DOT today. Sounds like they're favorable towards the grading. They wouldn't give us a definite answer. The only thing that they're not clear about and being able to give me direction is the intake, where the culvert underneath the interstate extends out, not on this property, but to the property to the east, whether or not that intake should be on the DOT property or on the private development property. It works either way, just as soon as they tell me which they prefer. I'll show that and then submit that, and I think we should be able to get a permit to do the grading without the retaining wall.
Probably at their mercy. You're at their mercy, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
Any questions?
You said expanded for commercial. What specifically do you have in mind?
I'll let the developer speak of the type of businesses that might go there.
Right now, we've had a couple of people interested, just restaurant style or something like that, but basically it'll just be 5,000 square foot of commercial for anything that fits in that area, so.
When you hope to get started?
Real soon, actually. Yeah. So, we're in the process of moving the people out that are in the car wash, and we'll probably be submitting for demolition for that car wash in the next couple of weeks, for a permit for that demolition and start all that process, so.
Okay, thank you, Chad. Okay, we got a motion to approve and second. Any other discussion? Go ahead.
Councilperson Sexton,
Yes.
Miller,
Yes.
Stulman,
Yeah.
Dean,
Yes.
Goodweiler.
All right. Item 3, golf cart ordinance. All right, I'll let these guys get out. So we have before us a proposal by a citizen, and then, I don't know, did Redmond put the staff proposal together?
Chief is here.
Chief?
He'll speak to him.
This is just a discussion. Who wants to start? Tom. Oh, wait.
I agree with the safety signs and the insurance, licensed drivers, but I think it's big government to go ahead and inspect the carts to put a sticker on. I think that's kind of a self-cleansing ordinance. If you don't have it, if you're found on the streets without the required safety things, to include the insurance, you get a ticket. I don't think we need to line up 100 golf carts and have the police department inspect it.
I agree. It just seems like a burden on us to take on. We don't inspect cars or motorcycles or mopeds or lawnmowers that might drive up and down. I don't know why we should inspect golf carts. Couple other things I'm not happy about is the requirement of lights. It's illegal after dark anyway.
Yeah.
So I don't know, it's gonna be a burden on someone who can't afford a cart with lights to have to buy a cart with lights just so they can drive to their mother's house down the street. That's a couple of my opinions.
Then drive your
Anybody?
car, I mean, you know.
Yeah, some people have a golf cart, it's easy to hop in and hop out. I got no problem with that. Anybody else thoughts?
Is it state law and it's mandatory that you can't, when Bobby was here last time, he said that he talked with Kelowna and they've passed an ordinance in their community to be able to allow lights at night after.
You can't do that. It says right, I got it right here.
It's the,
Yeah, golf course shall be equipped with slow-moving vehicle sign and bicycle safety flag and operate on the streets only from sunrise to sunset. The cities cannot change that. They may have done it, they may not, but you can't, that would be a contradictory of state law and you can't do it, in my opinion.
So the state law now is no nighttime driving. Do you have to be a licensed?
Yes,
permit
you have to
holder?
have, you have to have a,
14 or older with a
well,
permit?
it says a valid driver's license.
Yeah, and you couldn't.
I was,
You had trouble finding the
I was trying to get the whole thing with the, whether that, there's no definition of driver's license in the state code, could you imagine that? I was trying to figure out the school permit thing and whether that was a valid license or not, so, because I saw in the ordinance they talked about people going to school, which, and I know, and if you went to a school event, somebody who was a golfer could drive to, that would count if you had your car. If they were gonna be in a golf tournament or something at the golf course, that's still, that doesn't buy it, that's in line with the school permit, because it's a school event, so.
State code say anything about insurance?
No, the state code says you have to have adequate brakes and meet any other safety requirements imposed by the governing body. So in theory, instead of inspecting, you could do something when they come and get a permit or whatever and say, I certify that my brakes are working when I get my permit. So they're certifying that, you know, the brakes are correctly working, so then that would get away from us trying to.
If we did an inspection?
No, you can have them self-certify that their brakes are actually working. I mean, cities used to inspect taxis and stuff, and everybody's gone away from that because it's just the manpower.
So what was
issue.
brought up last time was that homeowners insurance does not cover a golf cart.
Okay, I didn't.
So that's why it was brought up to have insurance, separate insurance for the golf cart because.
Yeah, and I could be on board with that provision.
And I think that would be allowed under state law.
And I guess it's, I mean, if you have a car, you gotta have insurance. And it's virtually to protect the person if there was an accident, that there'd be some recourse for the.
A victim, a
victim,
third-party
yes.
victim.
Yeah.
More like somebody gets hit, not pedestrian gets hit,
That's
probably.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, or a golf cart pulls out in front
Yeah.
of some car
Yeah,
and
even
gets
if
hit.
a car hits a golf cart, those people aren't covered.
So assuming, and the other question I had, the primary road extension would only be the, off the interstate down in Downey and Baker, right, Dave? Is that a primary road, just the main, the Parkside Drive?
I think you'll have Herbert Hoover Highway.
Yep.
Or, yeah, that'll be, you'll have probably.
So is Main Street considered a primary road extension?
It's a functional classification based off of Farm Market Roads, so you'll have to look at the functional classification.
Okay.
DOT to find exactly which ones are primary routes.
Okay, so that's the one thing I had a question about that we'll have to figure out.
Is that also state law?
Yes, you shall not be operating on a city street which is a primary road extension through the city. So that's,
So like Highway 38 going through Tipton.
yeah, Strip in Corville, something like that, that would be.
I guess I have a little bit of an issue on Main Street is because we allow lawnmowers to drive down there, we allow construction equipment that got slow moving vehicle signs on it.
I'm just asking the question because that's what the state code
Yeah,
says. I just didn't, I didn't know if it was or was not, so, well, I can take a look into that. Dave,
And then the speed limit,
There's
there's
no-
another issue with that, because the way it states now is anything over a 25-mile-an-hour speed limit, you're not supposed to be on that road. So that means when you go west towards the high school, it turns 35. Go down Cedar Johnson Road, that's 35. If Lotham Ridge decides to do construction on their site this year, that means
There's
that
no
anybody
way.
that's in town that wants to, that's going to the golf cart course, will no longer be able to get to the golf course without trailering their golf cart. Which could be good business for me, they can use my golf cart
Golf
shed,
cart shed, but yeah.
but I'm just saying, a lot of people,
Yeah.
you know, like to keep the carts at home, and that's,
But
that's
if
the way
Logan
they get
Ridge
there.
is under construction and it's a mud hole, can't go past my house that way.
Well, maybe we should do the road extension then.
We probably will when that road gets built. We probably will,
It's on the list.
Until after they're done with their one.
after they're done, yeah.
Yeah.
After they're done, at least they're-
Contractors pay for most of it, so if we do it, we would have to then get reimbursed by the contractor, which is always a tricky proposition. So,
So where are we at?
well, we probably wanna hear from the police chief since.
Sure, chief, yes.
We probably.
Yeah.
I
got
got
talking.
I wouldn't,
but I don't know, do a lot of people use that?
What's that?
Cedar Johnson Road.
Or Cedar Johnson?
No,
Oh, it's muddy,
no,
yeah.
because they go through by Rogers' house.
Yes.
Okay.
Or
Except
they
when
go
it's
around,
muddy.
they go around
Yeah.
the other way, which
Yeah.
would be on the east side of,
West side of Covey Park,
Yeah.
they'll go
yeah,
that way too.
but they cut through my golf course, which I'm trying to eliminate, because as a golf course owner, you
Tears
wanna
it
know
up.
who's on your golf
Golf
course.
course.
And last
Yeah.
year we had a couple kids come out in the middle of a tournament, drive on the back of the golf cart, of course, started playing golf right in the middle of a tournament.
Wow,
So,
yeah.
that's not, I mean, that's just one example of what happens back there, but.
Go ahead, chief.
A lot of, my name's Mike Corhead, and a lot of you guys know me already, but I just did it for the video. But anyway, what you are saying is kind of what I feel, what the direction the council's given us is the direction I feel we should go. I do believe that we should now not allow nighttime driving, and I think our city attorney backed me up on that. I think insurance is a good thing to have, because if all of a sudden a golf cart runs a stop sign and a car collides them and injures 4 or 5 people, you know, there's going to be some civil liability. So I really like insurance. Licensed drivers, I think that the code says licensed drivers. The way I interpret licensed drivers is a young person with a school permit. If they're going to a school activity, I think it falls into the category of a valid driver's license. We may have to look at that a little bit, though. I like the idea of the number of seats on the golf cart, because there's been times where you have 5 or 6 people on a golf cart and there's only seats for 4, and that's not really all that safe. I like the fact that we're designated the roads. The existing Iowa code kind of has fit the bill for several years, and that's why we haven't really messed with it. But I think mentioning insurance, number of seats for golf carts, and designating the roads that are considered primary, I think is important for our code. So I think it's important that we address that. I agree with Councilperson Dean that we don't inspect cars. Why should we inspect golf carts? As far as lights go on the golf carts, it's not required that golf carts have lights. You know, and my suggestion, if you have them on, they should work. But aside from that, there should be no code section that requires them to have lights. To be honest with you, the city, people in the office here, as well as the police department, we really don't see the need to inspect the golf carts. We can do that through enforcement and through education. So I think we'll continue to educate the public. The fact that this is a newspaper, it educates the public and that kind of thing. So I think that's important. So I think it's felt that, I don't know that just charging $25 a golf cart and having half the people bothering about it, and taking up city staff time, I don't know. And like I said, we don't inspect cars, so why should we inspect golf carts? So I think we do need some ordinance clarification, but what you're saying is pretty much what I'm hearing from you guys is pretty much what I agree with.
My only question would be, if we require insurance, how do we, I mean.
If there's an accident and they don't have insurance, but we have an ordinance that there is, or that it's required, then what happens?
They can be fined.
Well,
Huh?
it'd be just like if you get in an accident with your vehicle, if you don't have your insurance, don't you have a period of time to present that?
I would have to see how it applies to state code. If we make it an ordinance, then the person is in violation of, if it doesn't apply to state code and they don't have insurance, we could apply it to our ordinance. We can enforce that code section through our local ordinance.
So it'd be without a license, you don't have insurance, it's $735 with all the court costs. If you don't have insurance and you get in an accident, it's a $330 or $350 if you, actually $397.50 if you don't have insurance and you don't get in an accident. So it's really expensive. We would just have a simple misdemeanor, probably a $65 fine, which is the minimum, plus the court costs and everything would be close to $150.
Well, like no driver's license, we could charge that, and that'd be, if we went through the state code, it'd be a $360 fine. If we charge somebody with permitting a non-authorized person to drive, same thing, around $360.
360?
Yep.
Okay.
Something like that.
I thought you-
330,
Well, it was
360,
60,
something like
and I was
that.
like, hell.
So it sounds
That's
like
a
we're
big
on
deal.
board with requiring insurance. I think we might all be on board with that.
The number of seats, too.
Number of seats, yeah.
I think we're all on board,
And
no
the
inspection.
Roads, the streets permitted. The wording needs to be a little different than what this says, though, I think, because Baker Avenue to West Orange Street.
It's up for discussion, it's,
But it's not clear what direction you're coming from to get to Orange Street. Baker Avenue North or Baker Avenue period.
when you have higher speeds, let's say 35 mile an hour on Baker as you're coming in town, if all of a sudden you have a golf cart that's going 10, 15 mile per hour, it could cause a traffic
The
tie-up.
interstate is for sure a primary road,
Yeah.
so.
Well, I think Baker Avenue's a primary
Yeah.
road.
I think so too.
Yeah.
I would think Parkside, Baker, and actually,
Dave's looking it up right now.
if you look at our main street, we have one street that goes continuous east and west, and so I would really
Yeah.
have to look at that
You got
as.
them here, I guess.
I mean, think of the two major.
Okay, so those are, the only thing we would really change is,
I don't have a problem with Baker if you're coming up College and you're trying to get across town.
you can exempt that one block.
You can go. You can travel across them. You just can't go down the roads. You can
Yeah,
go,
but you gotta jog one block.
You have to go down
You
that
gotta
road.
drive one block.
But I don't think that's not the intent. Is not to. If you're going to go in directly from one to the other, that's not going to be a problem.
It'd be like if you're
They're not gonna give you a ticket.
cruising
No.
mile.
A block or two is not
Yeah.
a big deal.
Okay.
And if you want us, and the reason we said that in the code, or specified it in the code, where you can cross crossways, the primary, just for that reason. If you have a street that doesn't go all the way through and a person wants to go block, that's not gonna cause much of a disruption of traffic. But, how we maybe describe that in code, maybe we should describe that a little clearer.
Oh, I agree.
Yes,
Going down over the hill by north side, yeah. That,
Dave, do you have the answer on what the streets are?
So the DOT has that identified as a major collector.
So it's not a primary
It's not a
road.
primary. The primary would be an interstate or other principal arterial, according to the definition.
So either Main Street or Baker would not be.
Those are both classified as major collectors, which would not be principal.
And we could,
You can still.
We can designate them.
You can designate them. I would just say automatically exempted.
What if we use the city limits? Baker's city limits would be Oliphant Street. That's where the speed limit changes anyway, I believe. Isn't that 25 there?
Yeah, I think so.
And then city limits would be Cedar Johnson Road, but
Our Main Street becomes I-80. There's gonna be a lot of
Yeah,
road
that-
construction.
yeah.
And it's alternate route for I-80 apparently, so.
Wait till the interstate starts.
Okay, so,
Should we?
that give you any direction to tweak it a little? And
Yeah.
As
So
far
we'll-
as,
we'll talk on the routes, I guess we'll have to work through.
Yeah, we can
the
work through
routes
that.
a little bit, but we'll bring it back as a first reading, and then you can have a chance to play with the routes if you want until we,
Okay.
approve it.
and the reason with that, we brought that whole ordinance to you, we wanted to make sure you guys could take a look at the whole thing and make decisions. So it wasn't necessarily something I was trying to force or sell to you.
Gotcha.
It was more or less just opening up the discussion.
Yep, and you did, good job.
Our lawnmower, I mean, Jerry brought up a good point. Not that we have a rampant lawnmower abuse driving problem, but.
we do have a lot of lawnmowers that go around.
Yeah, we
I
do.
don't, they don't bother me.
It's not any different.
Employees that
Small
drive
town.
They're
around.
slower. It's not any different. How can we ban something like, well, what I'm gonna do is I have a golf cart and a lawnmower. I'm gonna like,
It's not like you can ban a tractor going to a farm field through town either, so.
Yeah, that's my only point though. I mean, if I have both and it's just me, I guess I'll hop on my lawnmower and drive through downtown now. I mean, is there any?
I'm actually, I know all terrain vehicles are snowmobiles, I'm trying to see if there's, I'll look for next time.
We have
I
our,
mean, that's about.
But you can't put
I
them on
would if
kids
I
on lawnmowers.
really wanted to get somewhere on my golf cart and I didn't want to get insurance, whatever that costs. Be like, all right, I got a lawnmower that goes.
Have insurance in?
We
Here's
do.
an example, I
Can't
know
put anyone in the back,
of
but.
farmers that have lost their license for one reason or another. So they jump in their tractor and drive their tractor wherever they go. So,
To the bar.
to the bar, whatever, but
That's all
you
I'm
lose
thinking.
your license, you can drive a tractor.
No, I think we.
I mean, you look at the amount of impact it would be on one person.
I've seen that happen.
there is a code section talks about ATVs in our ordinance and snowmobiles in our ordinance and things like that. I guess, lawnmowers aren't really specifically addressed that I can think of right offhand.
Yeah.
Seems like I wanted to add.
But the farmers have their slow-moving vehicle on the back of
Right.
their thing.
Yeah.
But your lawnmower doesn't.
All right,
Then
thank
if you're in
you.
a tractor and you hit a car, so a car hits you, I think you're gonna be okay. Depending,
Yeah, that's
in
okay.
town where we're talking
Yeah.
about. It's different when you obviously get out.
Yeah,
All right, so we'll look at this again.
okay.
We're gonna go on to item 4. First reading of ordinance 773, amending chapter 92 of the Code of Ordinances of the city, eliminated discounted rates for consumption over 250,000 gallons per meter per month. Motion? Good job. Second? Tom. All right, so I think this is a good idea. That's all I have to say.
I agree.
Anything else?
I just have one add-on. When I saw this today, I asked Redmond that we, for the second reading, add an effective date to make it a clean billing process for me, because normally the ordinance goes into effect after it's published. And I don't want to have to split hairs and try to, if someone tries to say, well, up on this date, I got the discount, and after this date, I didn't. So I'd like to suggest the earliest we probably will do it.
First full billing period or?
The first full billing period, we could do it, if we do 3 readings straight through, it could be effective on May 1st for the May 1st billing, or if you want to wait until July 1st. So just, if you can give us some direction on which date you would like it to be in effect, to make
You
it.
should put it just on a date certain, not just when
Yeah.
it first bill,
So there's no date, effective date on here then?
The effective date is normally when it's published, is for an ordinance by law, so, but you can put an effective date on that trumps the publishing date. But you still have to publish it,
Yeah.
but you can put an effective
Well,
date.
all
on it.
these have effective dates on these
Right,
previous ones.
right, and we always typically did it on July 1st, the
So,
beginning of the fiscal year.
Next fiscal year,
So
yeah.
we could do it in the fiscal year, or we could do it as early as May
Right.
1st. That would be.
Yeah, they did it on the
Yeah,
fiscal
they did
year
an
last
effective
time,
date.
so.
So it's like they did an effective.
Okay,
date last time.
can you amend your
We don't have to
We'll put
do
it on the
now.
second reading.
Yeah, this is just the
Okay.
first
Yeah, let's do it on
reading.
the second reading. So just, if you want it to be May 1st, so that'd be the earliest, or July 1st to coincide with everything.
So that
else.
will be on here, this, for the second reading, that will be on, inserted here, okay.
Mm-hmm.
You put it where it's appropriate and where you'd like
I
it.
don't have a preference, May or July.
May or July, I didn't know if you wanted to run it till the end of the fiscal year, so you had a
No,
full
I'm
year.
thinking May.
May.
Do we need to notify the four companies that are,
I'd asked Redmond that today, I said, you know, is it appropriate, we didn't notify, well, we notified all the residents, we had the sewer increase via, not personal mailing, obviously, because that'd take a lot of time, but we did put it on Facebook, we did put it on their water bills.
Right.
Put, you know, there are enough articles in the newspaper that people knew about it. Now, these two customers might recognize it, and we could craft a letter to send to them to let them know that effective immediately,
I think it's a
or
common
effective
courtesy.
this
Yeah,
day,
I think
as a
I would think
courtesy.
it would
Just a
be,
nice thing to do.
Okay.
especially the West Branch Village,
Okay.
might be a little bit of a shock to them.
Okay.
They know.
So did I hear May 1st? Is that what they agreed?
first.
Okay, May 1st, okay. Thank you.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second to approve the first reading of ordinance 773. And I am ready to vote.
Councilperson Goodweiler?
Yes.
Dean?
Yes.
Miller?
Yes.
Sexton?
Yes.
Stulman?
Yes.
Okay. One of these ordinances had the dates wrong, I noticed. I haven't got to it yet.
The resolution 1879, I fixed those
Okay.
this afternoon.
Oh, that's the budget one. Was it?
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
that budget one. All right, public hearing. We are in a public hearing. Anybody here adopting the city administrator's recommended budget for fiscal year beginning July 1, 2020 and ending June 30th, 2021? Is anyone here to speak to that budget public hearing? Hearing none, I will close the public hearing. And move on to Resolution 1879, adopting the city administrator's budget, recommended budget for fiscal year beginning July 1, 2020 and ending June 30th, 2021. Need a motion from someone and a second. Colton and Jerry will second. This was the least painful budget process we went through, time consuming wise. I feel good about it.
Yeah,
No
I guess.
discussion?
It was the most painful one I ever went through.
Most painful?
God, yes. I don't need to know how many pencils Parks and Rec are buying.
Any other discussion? Let's vote.
Councilperson Miller?
Yes.
Sexton?
Yes.
Stulman?
Yes.
Dean?
Yes.
Goodweiler?
Yes.
Okay. Alcohol. First reading of ordinance 774, amending chapters 45 entitled Alcohol Consumption and Intoxication, and chapters 47 entitled Municipal Park Policies and Regulations. So this specifically addresses alcohol policy in our parks. This is an ordinance, so I need a motion. Someone give me a motion. Jody. Second. Nick. Let me get to it here.
What page is it on?
One, 120.
That budget is
120.
Oh my God.
There it is.
Bear with us here.
127.
No, that's park shelter fees.
Huh? Oh,
120.
I went too far.
Yeah, that took forever. I only know that because I did it last night.
You can go
All right, I got a couple of issues. I haven't got through yet, but
Almost there.
Thank you.
Former work.
I like the way it is at Cubby Park. No, Veronic Park. I could be all for this for Cubby Park. It's a new park, new everything. It's meant for kids. Veronic Park, however, there's a volleyball league that plays every Sunday night in the summer. that I'm a part of. We take our few beers down and we drink a few beers and we play volleyball. I don't wanna have to get a permit to do that. I think it's overburdensome and overbearing to
Big government.
to require that.
Big government.
That's my opinion.
Big government.
And I'll stop right there, I guess. Is there any way we could exempt, I know at one point, and I was on board with keeping all the parks the same. I just don't feel this fits for Bronick Park. No alcohol, I mean, they're literally banning alcohol, period. This is no alcohol, no beer, no wine. You can't
take hard liquor.
you can't take your picnic and open a glass of wine or have a glass of wine. Have to be plastic anyway. At Bronick Park, you can't do it, according to this. I don't like that.
So I have a question for
Anybody else?
Kevin.
Yep.
What's Corville do in all their parks?
We make them get a permit. You can't bring anything onto the adult softball complex because we sell our own, so that's different. Morrison Park, you have to have a permit to do it, and we don't let anybody bring anything in at the youth sports complex.
So the permit, what's the timeline on the permit? I mean, is it,
Oh, usually it's sort of like the same time on here. Somebody just brings one. We just pass it around all the departments and they can get it. It's usually for the shelters.
Yeah, but 4th of July at SJ Tom, whatever that is.
Let's just say you're not
That's
supposed to
a
smoke there that night
exception.
either, but there's not a lot of people being enforced that night. We'll put it that way. Because you're not going to go around and tell everybody to put their cigarette out, and technically they can't do that either.
So I can say at the staff level, we talked about the timeline, and I think originally we had it at 10 days, and we thought maybe 5 days. And then I was thinking about it, it doesn't give a lot of room for appeals. So if there is a disagreement with whatever staff's decision is, 5 days may not be enough to allow the council to make a decision on that situation.
We would make it. Oh,
Yeah,
if
why
they-
would we
if they
make a
appeal.
decision?
only if there was
If
a,
only
Only
if
thing we denied it.
they appealed staff's decision for whatever reason.
Why
So
would it come back to us? If you,
because they would
if
want
you,
an appeal.
if you say no, that's no.
No, they have a due process right to because they're an administrative body that they have to have due process.
So we
for
could
that
allow it to
little law.
violate our own. We could
I'm
bypass.
thinking of somebody
They say no and they can appeal that.
that's abused the right to have the alcohol.
Yeah,
Like,
people-
and now you're refusing to let them have alcohol again, and
Okay.
now they come to the council,
got it.
Yeah.
they wanna appeal it and come to the
Say
council.
there was a situation we thought was a grievance and they didn't think it was, and they disagree, and so.
Sort of like the old
So
golf
maybe they
course
just have to
liquor
be
license.
organized enough to get it in 10 days before.
I don't even know if you need a time frame on that. I mean, if you wanted to have a volleyball game at Bronick Park on Saturday, say, hey, I'm gonna have some beer down here, and you fill it out on Friday, and you say, no, that's not the way it goes, we had problems with you last time, we're not gonna do it. And you hand it to them, they go, well, you can appeal to the council. Well, when's the council meeting? Monday night? Well, that doesn't do me any good. Well, we're not here at their convenience.
I don't have a problem with it down there for adult volleyball, for graduation, for whatever. The only place I have a problem is when we built Cubby Park for kids. That is my only place I do not want alcohol. That's my own personal opinion.
It wasn't
I could be on
entirely
board
for
with that.
kids.
I could agree with that.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't entirely for kids.
We
There's
allow.
an adult field and a pickleball court there for a reason. Why did we build an adult-sized softball field then if we're not gonna allow adults to use it?
We could change it, I
'Cause
think
it
we
was
could change
both.
this
It
later
wasn't fully intended for,
to allow,
I get it, but I mean, it wasn't fully intended for that, it's the
I know.
community park.
so your point would be to allow alcohol.
I'm not saying anything, I'm just saying, I mean, it wasn't fully intended for that. I mean, there's pickleball courts. I mean, you'd have to have, I mean, any reasonable person, I guess, would
I
not
kinda
go down
agree
there
with-
with a six-pack to play pickleball when you got a 16-team, 8-year-old tournament. I mean, you'd have to have some common sense,
But Nick, that's why we have ordinances, it's for the people that don't. I mean.
Oh, no, I get it,
At the end of
but-
the day, that's why we're here, is to make rules for the people that don't have common sense. I mean,
I get that. I mean, we have rules for a lot of things, and people break them all the time. It's the people that are reasonable that pay the price. So I
You
mean,
got
like,
common sense.
I mean, but yeah, but to Tom's point, it's like if Saturday's supposed to be like Sunday, if it was supposed to be terrible and all of a sudden it's really nice, it happens in the summer all the time. I might call Tom and be like, hey, you want to go play volleyball down at Veronic Park in an hour?
No.
Well, you might say no. All right, maybe I called Roger and be like, hey, we got like,
Roger think say about yeah. it.
Maybe we
Yeah.
get like 12 people and it's just like we can't go down there and
No.
have a couple of beers and play a game. I mean, I get it's not the end of the world, but I mean, it does limit a little bit, especially if you're reasonable.
So we allow alcohol at the town hall. It's not a permit, it's a,
By council
It's an extra-
resolution.
they just fill out on the form, we'll have
They fill
alcohol.
out and they pay an extra fee for the day
An
and
extra
they
fee.
pay a deposit. And if there's no damages, we return the deposit.
Would we think about treating Veronic Park that, do we do the same thing for graduation parties?
We do not
Should
charge.
we ask if they have alcohol, serving alcohol?
We currently don't, but we're talking about that at the next item.
Okay.
Fees and stuff for the Veronic Park shelter.
Oh.
Next item on
I missed that part, okay.
I mean, if we're gonna allow it like volleyball, do we have to have a special circumstances that if it's an
needs to
adult
be
city
written.
event, is it
You need to
allowable?
undelete the, number
Hey,
2.
Pete.
We're making number 6.
If somebody
I'm making it, yeah.
What do you got
took a
there?
six
You can take
pack
that
and
off.
went down to
Back
Peter
to
Park,
Well.
what's it called?
Then
Peanut butter.
College,
No, no.
Village Green.
Village Green.
in limbo.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, I won't give you, I'll spare you the history lesson, but when I got here, alcohol was prohibited in the park throughout. That was illegal. In every national park, you can't do that. So it is now allowed. Now, we have a weakness in our law. I was actually just looking that up right now. We limit it to personal consumption. How are you gonna define personal consumption? In other words, when I feel my keg.
Keg in.
That's
Only me.
So,
It's just a pony keg.
So, you can have alcohol in Village Green. You can have alcohol in the park.
with a permit or no permit?
Without a
No,
Yeah, because
without.
Hoover Ball is technically on park ground and.
No, that's
No,
private
that's
ground.
foundation.
That's
Oh,
private.
That's
Oh,
private.
yeah, that's the foundation.
Yep.
Now, where the chief and I have
The
talked
bathroom
about
is
this,
definitely on
and
park property.
where we would, if we had a desire to get you, it would be on intoxication, public intoxication. So, once personal consumption tips the scale to intoxication, then that's where our enforcement wing would have some teeth.
Yeah.
Thank
That's
you.
pretty clear.
Back end. Park.
All right, where are we at? I got a little bit of a problem with withholding alcohol from Covey Veronic Park. That's my issue, so. You guys agree with me
I
or
don't
don't
care,
agree with me?
Browning Park, Wapsie Park. Fine, I have no problem with that. I don't want it on Cubby Park.
Well, Jody, what if some adults wanted to have a softball tournament on a Saturday, okay? They say, hey, can we have beer here? No, there's a kids tournament going on. As long as there's a kids tournament going on, you can't have alcohol. Would that be reasonable?
Would be reasonable.
I think so.
Same way with whatever park that is, whatever that game is.
Pickleball.
Pickleball.
I don't know what it is.
You know, you can go down and play pickleball and drink a 6-pack of beer as long as there ain't youth there.
I
I don't know how
I think
enforcement.
That's hard to enforce.
Yeah.
That's
not
gonna be
only
really
that,
hard to enforce.
You might have some adults playing on there, you might have some kids waiting to get on there, they're gonna be there waiting to get on the court,
Yeah.
so.
But if you had a scheduled tournament, it's easy to say no.
Right.
Yeah, I think if you have something scheduled, it's not hard for the organizers to meet the special permit. It's the situations where you got the ad lib type of activities. I guess that's what you're grappling with. Because, and essentially you could also, if you know you're going to be at the volleyball court for a season, you can do a block permit. Like, I'm going to be there every Sunday for the month of blah, 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 blah. It's like organizing a practice. You know you're going to be there.
And so every single team would have to have a permit?
No.
The league.
The league would. I mean, and that's the part that I don't understand what the big hoorah is.
Well, then
is
who
is
stays?
we're putting it on, so it's not like we're. I mean, you know, the volleyball league is a city sanctioned league. I mean, so we're filling out. We're okaying it for ourselves. I mean,
Okay, so we okay it for ourselves for the volleyball league every Sunday for 10 weeks.
Or to 9 or 4,
Who has to be there? Does a park employee have to be there
Who's accountable and who's responsible?
the whole time?
How's
Because
it work now?
if that's the case,
Somebody there.
Melissa's gotta have staff there.
Right now we don't have.
the whole idea of doing this wasn't to make somebody there to babysit them. It was just to let everybody know that there was going to be alcohol in the park at this time, you know, and to just make it to where it's not a free-for-all, where everybody, you can just go down there and have a kegger anytime you want.
Okay.
I mean, it's not big government. You guys are making this more difficult than it really needs to be.
Chief.
The Iowa code says it's illegal to consume alcohol in a public place or property. There are exceptions to that. To me, I don't think it's out of line. I have to enforce the laws, and, you know, we're not gonna go after the guy that's drinking a beer with his family and a picnic, you know, even though it may not be right, we're not gonna seek him out. And but on the other hand, we don't want it where a person can drink any time at any park, anytime they want to, and have us try to enforce it. The problem too, when you get into a situation where you allow it sometimes at one park and sometimes not at another park, you know, or at Lions Field when the kids are having soccer tournament, you know, do you want somebody to open up a 6-pack out there? I guess my recommendation is, you know, we're not trying to be fun spoilers, but it makes it easier for me to enforce or for me to understand is if there's an event permit. If there is a graduation at Veronic Park and they want to have alcohol and they want to fill out a permit, that's okay. That's fine. If the city or whoever wants to put on a volleyball tournament, or if somebody wants to put on a league night at Covey Park, as long as an event permit is filled out. Who fills it out, I really don't care. It's as long as event permit is filled out and is submitted. Whenever I get an event like this, I always send it out to all my officers so they know what's going on. When would we refuse it? Probably almost never. The only time we'd ever refuse somebody coming in and getting a permit is when it looks like it's gonna be out of hand or where they've kind of violated an ordinance somewhere along the line. So, special event permits, as I talked about before, are helpful because if something gets out of line, whether it's if somebody's at a house and having a party and all of a sudden the neighbors are complaining, we know who lives at that house. We talk to the owner at the house. If there's a situation at Bronick Park and we know who took out the permit and we get a complaint, we're going to seek them out and say, hey, just to let you know, we got some noise complaints or whatever. It's kind of nice to know who's responsible. So originally, it was proposed that there'd be alcohol allowed in any parks at any time. And I personally don't think you should have alcohol anytime you have a child's event. And so this is the compromise the police department made is, you can have the event and you have alcohol, but you have to fill out a permit. Whether it's Cubby Park, whether it's, somebody wants to do a beanbag at Wapsie Park and have alcohol there. If they fill out a permit and make us aware of it, we're going to be okay with it. So we're not trying to shut down alcohol in parks, but I think the city should have some control over that. And especially police officers that are enforcing it, we have to have a clear direction on what to do. And like I said, it's been well understood when they have a volleyball tournament down at Bronick Park, we know there's going to be alcohol down there. I mean, we don't go down there and police it down there because we know they're having, alcohol down there. But we also know that the city's sponsoring it, and we have some city people that are managing the event. So all we're asking for is a little control. We're not looking to necessarily shut anything down. But you're right, if it was, somebody talked about common sense. If everyone lived by common sense, we probably wouldn't need any laws at all. And so it's for the ones that cross the line that we have to have special rules in place. And so we've got a great city, and it's a very, very safe city. And I think kids feel safe playing on the playground and things like that. And but that's why we have council members to give us direction and pass ordinances and protect the city, or we don't want to be like another council person said, like Big Brother. I mean, we're not trying to ruin somebody's day. But that's just my suggestion.
The only thing that makes me think about it is, I mean, we added one park, now all of a sudden this is an issue. I mean, I lived here since I was 8, and we've never had a policy. And I mean, I don't think I ever went to a tournament here when I was 10, and somebody was getting smoked out, sitting in the stands. Like, it doesn't happen. It wasn't a common occurrence. I don't think it is now. I mean, I know for a fact that at least the games that I coach, we don't have parents sitting on the bleachers drinking a 12-pack.
Yeah, it's happened.
I mean, I'm sure it has.
I used to bring a cooler to my football game.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure it's happened, but I mean,
I'm not telling stories.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure it's happened, but I mean, it's to the point where if it has happened, it hasn't been an issue. I mean, I would have, if somebody was drinking a 12-pack and got out of hand and was abhorrently, obnoxiously drunk, I think I probably would have noticed coaching the game that there's some guy in the stand that's obviously intoxicated, that's screaming or doing whatever. But I mean, I haven't seen that in 20-some years. So we add a park, now all of a sudden, what do we have? So many intoxicated people walking around West Branch going to little kids' events? I mean, that's just...
Yeah, we do. I've seen it myself.
I mean, they could show up. It doesn't mean they're drinking it there. But I mean, that's kind of my point about it. I don't know why we necessarily need it when I don't think we've had an event or an issue that's prompted this sort of level of protection. But I mean, I could be off.
Well, we kind of have though, because when we started talking about selling it or having adult events and allowing people to bring it in, I mean, that was kind of it was small scale. It was Baronic Park, it was the volleyball, that was it, you know. Now Cubby Park's added, and they're talking about wanting to do adult softball leagues. The discussion at one point was that maybe we would even sell it ourselves.
Yeah, see, that would make sense if we were selling it.
Well, then that obviously opened up a conversation that we had never had to have before. So, I mean, the whole permit deal, if for nothing else, say some softball league comes in and wants to do a tournament and they get a permit and they tear our ball diamonds up and they, you know, it's an out-of-towner league and it causes a bunch of problems, then the next time they sign up, if we don't at least by having a permit, we can say no. If it's just open that you can have, at adult events, you can have beer, we don't have any authority to tell them, no, you can't.
But now they have to sign up to even get the field. They can do that without alcohol.
Well, yeah, you can't, I mean, legally, you can't be intoxicated, that's.
No, I'm just saying, but they
pretty
could
clear.
come in and destroy our fields without a drop. And that's why she schedules it. So we do have a scheduling thing for that as well. Now, I think that's next.
Real quick. So we also currently have a schedule for Veronica Park. So we have online schedules for who's in the shelter and a way to track them that is accessible to everybody and actually anybody in the community. So you guys could get on our calendar and look and see who has the park or who has a volleyball court or who has a baseball field or Lions field or things like that. So we currently do track who's using our parks and our shelters. And that's been in place for a couple of years. Same thing for town hall. So, and we have had incidents where people will bring a beer to a little kid's game, and as staff we see it, we tell them nope, you can't do that. So we do monitor that, and we haven't had any issues really. People abide by it and do what they're told for the most part.
Do you see if we require permits for, how are we gonna handle the volleyball league?
I think it will be a struggle, and it could be self-imposed. But like, for example, when we take out a permit for hometown days with the Park Service, you know what I mean? My name's on the permit, so I'm going to be the one responsible. You know what I mean? And I'm going to be the one on call, or we'll make sure we have staff on call if our name's on the permit.
It's an awful burden to you,
No, that's fine.
It's already a burden.
Yeah.
I mean, right now, you're there now. If there's issues, you don't just say, not my problem, do you?
I'm not there during the
not always there. It
league.
doesn't have to
We
be.
set it up, and then we'll come back and we'll check in throughout the night. But I don't have staff there on Sunday nights from 4 to 10.
Would
I
you
don't-
have to have, would she have to have someone
I don't
there?
think anybody's asking her to have that.
Okay.
No, she just said on call, which means if there's an issue, then she gets a call.
Well, that's one of the things I'm concerned about, if it's clear that, I'm a little skeptical, but.
I mean, technically, as long as it's there, chief and the police officers work for the city. They're technically could be on call from that 4 to 10. I mean, they're the ones that are gonna enforce it, because what she's gonna do. If I have an issue, and I call Melissa and say, hey, I have an issue, there's an intoxicated person down here. What is she
Yeah,
gonna
she'd
do?
rather not.
No, but I'm just saying, what
She
is she
has
gonna do?
before, I've seen it.
Probably
Well,
turn around and probably call chief.
But I'd
Or I
also
can
make sure I'm
eliminate
there
it and
too.
Just call the chief.
I mean, I like to know what's happening.
I mean, it's a middleman, you
works.
don't need, well, no, I
Common sense.
get it, but the chief, that's what I mean, but
Yeah.
as far as the middlemaning part, I mean, the chief could easily drop you a note and said, hey, there was an issue down at volleyball, I took care of it. I mean, the
That's
middleman,
probably-
her there would be,
That's probably how it's gonna happen anyway. I mean, you know, Roger's not gonna call and say, Billy's drunk, you know?
Roger's drunk.
Okay, let's.
So anyway, I just wanted to kind of give you that currently we do have a log, and we kind of, it's accessible to everybody who's using our parks and what they're doing and what time they've reserved it for.
I mean, but Roger, as far as Brownick Park and the volleyball goes, she fills out the permit, it says, you know, we're gonna have alcohol during this time and this time for this many weeks on Sundays, and that's it, it's done. I mean, I don't see how it's a headache for anybody.
Okay, I was
mean,
concerned-
it almost is a red flag that you'd be unwilling to do that, would make me think, what goes on there?
You haven't been there, have you?
We're all gonna show up now.
Very good. All right, well, if I understand that we don't have to have someone there, a park and rec person, for 5 hours, I feel better about it. Because I just think it's a terrible burden on Melissa and her staff, and they have to be there.
Realistically, I don't
Yes.
think it would limit your pop-up events
Yeah,
too
well-
horribly much.
Well, it's
I
a
don't know how
matter of
many pop-up
enforcement
events we
then,
have.
too.
So, you said pop-up events?
Yeah, like I
And-
said, if I just gathered a group of like 9 people and play volleyball down in the park on a random Saturday in like a half hour.
That's what I was gonna say too, because I know that we do have some teams or some groups, actually a lot of groups that'll just go practice and things like that, and how that's gonna be handled. I don't know. I mean, I'll inform, of course, all the teams, and it'll be public, but that will be an enforcement issue, I guess.
Okay.
That was more where I was sitting at with it, is those type of things. Are we limiting, not, that- I mean, I fully agree. I mean, if you have a large event, you definitely should let somebody know, but it's just whether or not to pop up things with like 5 or 6 people.
I doubt our cops are gonna, I mean.
Yeah, I know, but it's just.
Honest to God, I doubt it. If I wanted to go sit on the slide and drink a beer right now, I doubt anybody's gonna bother me.
Until we get somebody who does, I don't know.
Well, like you said before,
then you have a tool.
pretty rare, we have a problem.
If,
Very rare. You probably know more than us, but there may be more problems than we know about.
I think there'd be more problems with people showing up already.
So if I'm
And doing it
understanding this, the main thing about the permit is for larger groups. The way I'm reading this, the permits are for the large group, the large events. Like Nick keeps saying, it says, somebody calls a couple guys up and says, let's go down and play pickleball. Come down on a Saturday. They wanna get a pickup game and they wanna have a couple beers. They're in violation. So we're saying that the police is not gonna come in and throw them a ticket? I mean, that's,
I mean, they rightfully could.
yeah. Or if somebody wants, like it says, wants to go down to the volleyball and have a few guys get together and have a volleyball. They're not hurting anybody, they didn't bring a keg, they just brought a cooler full of beer and.
It's probably fine until it becomes a problem.
Mhm.
That's,
But I mean, if you
But what we're
put it in
saying
law,
is
it already is a
that
problem.
anytime you wanna drink alcohol on a park, you gotta have a permit, which you gotta have it 5 days in advance, so that eliminates that, oh, it's a nice Saturday, let's get a few guys together and go down and play a little baseball or softball or, kind of eliminates that, so, I guess my point is, are we requiring everybody to have a permit to drink alcohol?
I think they should let it I think they should let you take beer to schools. I mean, you know, at some point, there's a protected area, you know. I don't think it's out of line to say, don't go to a kid's park and drink.
They're not kids' parks.
Yeah.
They're communities.
It's a community park.
Well,
That park was,
it's a
that
community
park was paid
school,
for by
too.
community dollars.
Well, and so are the schools. We're not allowed to go there and drink.
Well, that's a little different.
Schools are
a little
for
different.
kids, though.
Yeah, schools are for kids. You have events there for kids.
You don't play a pickup football game up here and drink during your pickup
It's on
football
school-
game
it's on
or
school
flag
grounds.
football.
School property. I could,
That's
I could go to Lions Field and do a pickup football game if I wanted to, but no kids are there. You could go to Covey Park in a big field that's open to the right and do that if you want to now.
Okay.
That might be more of a large event.
Well,
I'm not saying that we have a lot of people that wanna
Yeah.
drink a lot of alcohol when they go play, but there are a few, I mean,
Is there some way we could get around the wording on this? That if you have an organized event, such as a wedding, the volleyball league, graduation, that, a alcohol permit is needed versus impromptu.
So like if you're reserving anything, if you're reserving something, then you need to have a permit.
The only issue you run into there is if you have an impromptu event that grows into 50 people. Which, not saying it happens, but I mean, very well could.
But you're not reserving anything.
That's what I mean, but that's what I'm saying, you run into those issues.
Kind of disincentivizes reserving it
If you don't,
if it wants to be a drinking.
well, but what do you do when you have your volleyball thing if you don't reserve it?
Let's
And,
reserve.
and there's people playing.
But people do show up to practice on a Saturday afternoon.
But that's not an organized event.
No.
It's not an organized event.
Sometimes it's just a family.
I can try to come up with something.
Is there any way we could,
I can try to come up with something. I mean,
Thank you,
the problem
Kevin.
is
Yeah.
you're probably, you can come up with a million scenarios that
it's,
it may be outside, but I can try to come up with something that, if you just want to table this and I can come up,
Well, it's just the first reading
Yeah.
anyway.
so I can try to come up with something
By the
that,
second reading.
around what you said. And I understand where everybody's coming from, so,
okay.
but like the volleyball league, they can get a permit because they're a league, you know, that's easy.
Have a stipulation and obvious for like, there's a kid event going on that.
Impromptu events under 10 people or 10.
No, I want to
That-
get any,
no numbers, no numbers?
the numbers are not good.
All right.
Yeah. And then you have to put a stipulation in
Too
as long as there's not a scheduled
All right.
children's event going on at the same time.
so if somebody gets a permit, then do you get notified, Mike, every time there's a permit issued then?
Melissa's been fantastic generally when there's a special event like that. She'll usually copy me in. And then what I'll do is I will copy in all of my officers working, so the officers working that night know something that's taking place that night, so, that's.
So I guess my point is if somebody does a pickup game or something and, you know, you drive by the park and there's a bunch of people at one of the parks, you haven't been notified that there's, an event, a scheduled event going on there, then,
More likely to check it out.
yeah, well, you check it out, but, I mean, it's, you know, that they didn't get a permit to drink alcohol, but they might be there drinking some alcohol, if that's the way we go.
I'm not sure exactly what you're saying. Yeah,
If somebody does a pickup game and, you know, they wanna.
I can't say it would be legal necessarily, but, you know, if people are there drinking a beer and not getting out of hand, you know, I'm not gonna, now, if all of a sudden we start getting complaints and
Right.
fights and pushing, and,
Right.
you know, then we're gonna be looking at everything that's going on.
Yeah.
And, you know, to me, a special event, I don't look at numbers, you know, if a group of 6 people wanna do a special event
Right.
and wanna fill out a permit, and use that volleyball tournament or use that ball field and fill out that permit, they have that reserved space in there. I agree that it's a little inconvenient if you have something impromptu, you know, where all of a sudden somebody says, hey, let's do this together. But on the other hand, you know, we don't want 6 cars to pull up at Covey Park and everyone have a kegger and have a party out there. And, you know, and I've seen the worst case scenarios, you know, and typically, fortunately for West Branch, that's not the norm. You know, we're not taking gobs of people to jail every single weekend, you know. But I have seen it at a baseball tournament where there are intoxicated people and they're saying things and helping the coach at the ball field and had too much to drink. And so I'm trying to do what I can to keep our kids safe and protected against that kind of situation. And the police department uses common sense. I can sit at a stop sign and I could write 100 tickets for running a stop sign in a day shift. But I'm not sitting at that stop sign looking for every single little bitty violation. Now, I'm also can't tell you that,
Two chiefs from now.
I'm not going to say that you're not committing a crime if you go to a park and drink in a public place. Where do you start and where do you stop? I mean, would you allow alcohol at a council meeting? And have all sit around and have a six-pack, at a council meeting, And so...
You don't want to smell this, yeah.
For the average thing needs to be going with you, that might not be a bad idea.
And I appreciate Councilperson Miller's position because he has probably seen, and you give a person an inch, then you have the person that's taking the mile. And we as a police department are trying to provide a very safe community for the citizens of West Branch, and this is the real reason for me to stand up here. It isn't necessarily to downgrade everything or micromanage everything. It's basically to give us a good positive direction and use common sense when we enforce things. So that's about all I had to say. But rest assured, we do use common sense. But all it takes is one complaint.
Okay, thank you, Mike. We need to come to a conclusion here. So, we've got a suggestion to maybe add some wordage somehow. So from there, we can either read this tonight and vote on it. We've got two more after this, or we table this tonight, correct?
Either one.
And who did the motion?
I do.
Jody did? Do you have a preference? How you want to proceed?
I would like to table this.
Okay. Why you vote on that?
You would have to get a second for tabling it and then vote on it, yes.
Does it have to be the second from the person who seconded it?
I mean, I will.
Yeah. No.
Okay.
We're not allowed to, I guess.
I'm not clear on procedure yet.
Yeah, we're not, let's just say I'm not into that big book either, so yes, you can do whatever you
All right, I'll
want.
second it.
Okay, so we're gonna vote on tabling this resolution, ordinance 774 for the time being, and maybe it'll come up next time.
I'll come back with language next time, no matter which way you go, so.
Any discussion on tabling? Okay, let's vote.
Councilperson Stulman?
Yes.
Goodweiler?
Yes.
Dean?
Yes.
Miller?
Yes.
Sexton?
Yes.
Okay, so the motion then is original is rescinded?
Yes, yeah, so I'll have something in your packet for you guys to look at before next meeting, so.
Okay, let's move on. Item 8, discussion on rec facility, park, and sports field use and the fee policy. Melissa?
Okay, so currently we don't have a fee for our shelters, and that's been something that's been discussed for quite a while. So the commission came up with charging for our shelters, $25 for half a day. You can reserve the whole shelter if you want to. I think I put the hours there, and we kind of based it off of blocks that are commonly reserved. People, if they want to have a lunch gathering or a dinner gathering, it fits right in there. So this was their recommendation, and I feel it's a good idea. I've also had, not just for Bronick Park Shelter, we've had people who have wanted to reserve Heritage, or the Square, yep. Usually it's an overflow for a gathering from the lights there. We haven't had it this year, but we've had it in the past. And I've also had requests for out at Covey Park. People would like to reserve the pavilion area. They've also asked in the past to reserve Lions Field pavilion area. So, yes.
Cool.
Is there, I don't see it in this agreement, there's kind of having a, I don't know if it's written policy or unwritten policy. We don't charge nonprofits, right?
That's,
Said it on the front page. I think.
yep, that nonprofits are still exempt.
Good.
I have mixed feelings on that. I'm just gonna let you know. A lot of times our nonprofits are the ones that, they'll reserve, we've had this on, they'll reserve a day that's a popular day for an event, and then they'll cancel at the last minute, or they won't tell us that they canceled, and that becomes an issue because there could have been somebody, there were people that wanted the facility. So I kind of have issues with that. We've also had issues with a lot of times when they're paying and they leave a mess, that's not acceptable, and they still need to clean it up. I'm just saying that. But when you're a nonprofit and you're not paying and you're still leaving a slight mess, that's something too. And that, I'm not talking necessarily there at Veronic Park. That's more of a town hall issue.
Can you do a deposit?
We could do a deposit, and I had,
$5 deposit from a nonprofit, and then if you show up and you clean up, you get your $25 back. If you don't show up or don't clean up, you keep your $25.
Bad idea.
I've also seen where it's limited. You know, you can have 4 free rentals a year for nonprofits or something like that. Just different ways of doing that. The town hall, Veronic Park usually, like I said, isn't a big issue. We use it. Scouts reserve it a lot, and that's pretty much all the nonprofits that really reserve that. But anyway, here was just the shelter agreement. I cited, and of course I put on the back here the alcohol with a permit thing if we were going to go with that route, but that's something new anyway. But I guess, are you in favor of a fee or not?
I am. I think I am, yes.
It's not excessive by any means.
Yeah, I mean,
And we
somebody
did,
has to go back, I mean, somebody has to check it. If it needs cleaned up, somebody has to clean it, we have to pay for that.
Got to empty the trash cans. We got a little labor involved.
we have a lot, they're supposed to empty the trash cans. There's a
Oh,
dumpster right there. But we do, it is a nice facility. It's large. We have,
Yeah.
especially in Veronic, we have electrical outlets, so people use it a lot.
$25 will break anybody.
Yeah.
I would like to deposit $25. $25 is what I'm hearing.
That's
For nonprofits.
For nonprofits, but
Yeah.
we don't do a deposit for anyone right now. So what we want to reflect that through for anyone.
Do they have to pay ahead of time?
They don't have to pay it ahead of time. I do have a cancellation policy in there. If they rent it, their fees will be refunded. They have to cancel 30 days in advance or something like that. I have some accountability in there. And that's,
I would just do a deposit for nonprofits if we run into that issue.
Right,
would you like me to
Just-
tweak that for
just
town
even
hall?
on the town hall.
I can-
I'm fan for it. I mean, there's nothing stopping me from renting every weekend in the summer and then never showing up. I mean, besides you're maybe not approving it, but it wouldn't be a penalty right now.
Right.
So for profit or for anyone else who doesn't clean up afterwards, there's penalties for that?
Currently, if we can assess them. I don't think we ever have.
I think that's what the rental fee helps cover is the cleaning costs. It doesn't cover
We don't
damages.
really wanna put that out there though, Leslie,
Yeah.
because then people are gonna think.
Then they'll just leave it. I know people are more respectful, but it does happen.
So we did have an incident at Town Hall. It was probably, I'm gonna go maybe 6 or 7 years ago after we put the new stove in there. We had a Cub Scout troop that came in and broke the glass accidentally of that. And that, and they paid for that replacement. They took care of it. They called me, Melissa, sorry. I believe it was a weight that went through or something, or a rolling chair or something.
I can't remember.
Block that out.
But they were sober.
Well, I had a scout leader that was not sober.
Oh, the good old days.
Okay,
It turned out just fine.
so we're all good with a fee.
Yeah.
And then it all works out. If this works out, we might switch, especially for the weekends, for town hall, to a block scheduling similar to this. It makes it easier for us as staff. That way we don't have somebody saying, hey, I want to come in from 8:30 to 10, and then somebody else when we're going like, oh, this is how much it is for that. And then somebody's like, no, I want to come in. It just makes it easier.
Make it easier.
Block scheduling is a lot easier.
Yep.
And once again, people can always drop in and use our shelters if nobody's in there. You know what I mean? That's something, but if you want it reserved.
Do we have any signage at all that shows
So-
that if somebody comes to the shelter and there's a time block on there that
Yeah,
they can't?
she puts it down.
So, yeah, Leslie's been printing that off and then we're gonna switch and I'll do it, but we're going to have a actual
Sign on the.
something on there that'll
Yeah, okay.
have the schedule.
'Cause I know like City Park,
Yep.
my family always has one shelter, they have it every year, same weekend every year.
Yep.
But there's always a sign there that says reserved.
And people will still be able to reserve like they do now online. Whether or not you go to a permitting system or not for alcohol, people will still be able to go ahead and do that. Right now, it's pretty easy for them to go fill it out, have the same ability there.
Thank you. Nice job. Okay, city administrator.
Well, some might celebrate this. I don't know. I had computer difficulties yet. So it's on the computer. I can see it, but I just can't print it.
Send it out to us sometime.
But I'll send it out. But there was a couple things that I do want to mention. We did wrap up our RFP process for our solid waste collection, and we received 4 responses, so it's good. We got one from Johnson County Refuge, so they stuck in and put in one with us. We also got one from Republic Services, pretty big outfit. We got one from ABC Disposal, and also from Waste Management. So the way we sent it out, there was several different options. So it's not like a real clear, easy way to see which one is the best value. So we're going to go through it, primarily me and Leslie, we're working through that. And we'll have a recommendation for you for the March 16th meeting. The other thing, which I don't want to, probably shouldn't talk to without my information in front of me, but I did want to just make some comments, and I have some information about the coronavirus. This is kind of a big thing, and we also have one of our residents who we've been working with the storm wastewater. Actually was in Asia. He's on his way back. He's not ill, but he's probably going to have to go through some observation before getting back into the swing of things. So that's going to throw a little bit off. We're going to be working to set up a meeting probably the end of the month with Baldrige Environmental and V&K. So, but I think we probably. Well, you should have saw Leslie's face this morning.
Oh, sorry.
It was like, Corona, and then all of a sudden, what?
Dave's sending the underling that day.
But in all honesty, I think we've heard we need to be washing our hands, and I talked to the chief today. If there's, and I also talked to Iowa League of Cities. So if there's anything that I learned, I'll be sure to let everybody else know as well as the community, so that we'll be prepared. But washing hands sounds like what is the answer so far right now, and keeping your hands away from your eyes and mouth and whatever. So I have actually some stats from the Iowa Department of Health, Iowa Public Health Department. Anyway, I think there's like 30 cases being observed now. No cases have been identified with any acute symptoms. So right now, we're pretty clear, but
in Iowa.
In Iowa. But all that can change real fast from what I hear how this thing works. So anyway, I got that information. It's in my pack. I'll mail it out to you. Just wanted to make sure we covered that.
One way to get a vacation is quarantine.
Yeah.
Anything else?
Great vacation.
That's all I can remember.
Sorry, I can't leave my house.
Okay, Kevin,
I have nothing more. I've said enough.
staff? All right, motion to adjourn, anyone? Yes, I'm sorry, us.
No, I got nothing. I was mostly to adjourn.
I do have something. I would like to congratulate the girls, West Branch girls basketball team on making it to state and representing West Branch. And good luck, go Bears.
Tomorrow night at 8:30. 8:45.
We have a meeting
Be
tomorrow
there
at
at
noon,
8:30. See you guys.
Redmond,
Yes.
at the school, and 5-ish.
Wait for the girls you need to gouge you to get in.
And 5-ish.
5.
So it's a busy day, because then there's a 10 o'clock radio meeting.
Yeah, I'm going to that
10
too.
Okay, so you got us covered.
All right,
So hold on,
Anybody else?
I got something.
go ahead.
So Ben's comments.
Yeah.
I think it's extremely inappropriate for us to discuss employee salaries in a meeting. One particular employee's salary in a meeting. But that's not appropriate for us to not do it in a meeting as a group. So, we're pickle.
I've been on the council, what, 2 years now? The very first year, I mentioned that we needed to do something. I don't like this just across the board stuff. And here we are again.
I've dug out my old wage scale from 2001.
Thank you. Bring it.
And I'm going to Key West tomorrow. And when I'm sitting on the beach, I'll...
Yeah, you take a picture of that.
I will.
Necessarily advocating
At Margaritaville.
just for himself.
But I will...
He was a little bit, but I think at the same time, he just was advocating for a merit-based system in general. And he thinks that he would benefit from a merit-based system. Not necessarily do we need to sit and talk about, does he get a raise? It's a matter of fact, is it a merit-based system for everybody across the entire board? So you get your COLA, or cost of living adjustment, and then if you go above and beyond, you get a rating, and then is it an extra 1%? Is it an extra whatever? Or do you get nothing? Or do you get, you know what I mean, some sort of scale?
The one I had was, you get an experience raise every 2 years.
There's that.
You know, up to 10 years, and then you max out. And if you do something above and beyond that year, your supervisor recommends you for a bonus.
So we talked to you a few
Yeah.
months ago about finding something out.
Well, and I talked about an hour and a half with Ben, so I have probably a little bit better idea where he was coming from. And we experienced it a little bit when we moved a part-time employee to a full-time position, and we had that huge gap we made up because there's a distance between part-time wages and full-time wages. It has been our organization's philosophy that difference be there. That's not always the case in all organizations. Sometimes you pay a wage based on the skill and the salary, and that's it. And that person may not get benefits, but that person still, the wage is valued at this number. Here, the wage is, you could wind up doing, if you have a full-time grass cutter and a part-time grass cutter, that wage can be a big difference because one might be full-time, one might be part-time. Basically what I expressed, there's been a number, even though you might not feel it, there's been a number of inequities that we actually have closed over the last couple of years. I think, and I shared with Ben, I think this is probably one of the glaring last pieces that we really need to address, but Dean, you're right. We got to do that, and maybe we have to pay for it. I don't know. I mean, just the time in the day of actually hammering out a pay system is eluded me.
Again,
If you're part-time, you aren't entitled to benefits. Bonuses are benefits.
Say that again.
There's a lot of, I've been employed where we've had part-time employees and they're not entitled to benefits. And bonuses are technically benefits. So
Right.
regardless if he's been here or regardless of who it is, him or not, or I was before, you could have been in the company 50 years and been part-time, but you're part-time.
And that would
So you're not a
include merit
full-time employee,
pay
you're
in a
not
lot of
dedicating
places too.
But nowhere in
I'm
our
not saying we can do that, but.
ordinances did it not say, I mean, at some point, if you're, you know, just so we're not picking on any particular person, say it's the library, they got a part-time librarian that can name off all the books, she's the perfect librarian, she makes $12 an hour, but he really thinks she deserves 14, you know, when it came time to budget time, if that manager brought that to us, we don't know that, right? So we're kind of waiting for the department head to say, I got a part-timer that's special and I'd like to pay him more. I mean,
One of the reasons I came up with this is we had a department head that long before you never did performance reviews, ever, on his 4 or 5 employees, and they didn't get raises. And if we have something structured in there, you know, at 2 years, if I've done a good job, I'm gonna get a performance raise plus my cost of living. At 4 years, I'll get a performance raise plus cost of living. And, you know, if you're in be it part-time employee or, you know, part-time employee low skill, part-time employee high skilled like Ben is, you know, you can say, okay, well, where would he fit if he was a full-time employee in this? And you can plug him in at that salary.
Well, it shouldn't be rocket science. We're not reinventing the wheel. Cedar County has a step system. The school has a step system.
Every place I've ever worked has a
I don't-
step
It
system.
shouldn't be that
The only
hard
one I
to
have
come
is-
up with something.
Because I know when I worked part-time for the city of Iowa City, it was, I got whatever they
They got a
paid me.
system.
There's, but there was people that worked there for 10 years that made what they put out there is what you got. Regardless if you were there 1 year like me, or if you was there for 20. If you wanted to work part-time, you got what you got. And I'm not saying I advocate for that, I'm just saying part-time is the kicker in a lot of it, because they had some guys that worked part-time at the city of Iowa City that were great employees, but they view it as part-time. If you're not a full-time employee, you're not giving us your full, not saying I agree with it, I'm just saying that's generally how that works. So I don't know how easy it would be to find a part-time
Step system.
because I know there's not a whole lot of them generally for part-time employees.
I don't know if I ever came across one, to be honest. But we have started the process of getting our job descriptions more representative of the jobs that they're doing. So that's one of the first steps, Roger, to get a system up and running. So my goal is still to have one by our next budget process. Maybe we might have to pay for somebody to help me out to get it done, though. But
I don't think we should.
well, it's a little bit more involved than probably. I mean, I'd be happy to walk you through what it is. So that you can at least.
I'm not getting paid to do that.
Yeah.
You
It's
are
just-
though.
I can become a part-time employee.
There you go. You can put everything. I guess I should
like
get
$10 a year, right?
All right.
the vaccination
Anything else?
component while I'm at it. I guess.
Need a motion to adjourn, Nick. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
We're out of here.